Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our show tonight, We the People. As you can see, we are presented by the Diamond Factory, and you can subscribe and donate on our YouTube channel, Cash App, $J E King 3 or I. We have a very distinguished guest in the house tonight talking about a subject that I am very familiar with, and I'm sure that a lot of you are also familiar with, and that's self-sabotage. So, uh, Doc, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I don't want to butcher your last name. Uh, so, uh, let's kind of get this show on the road here, and we'll have a proper introduction.
So, hi, James. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show. It's a pleasure. My name is Dr. Philip Agrios. I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease. And during the years of my practice and working, with for 35 years, I happened to stumble across a biological trait that we are born with that is the true reason why we self-sabotage. And a lot of people think it's really mindset. It's not just mindset, it's many other things, but it's actually a trait that you cannot get rid of. And it's there not to undermine you, but it's there to protect you from the very success that you're seeking, because that success subconsciously is more painful to actually achieve and to sustain. So we go back doing what we're doing over and over again. And when I first found it, I was like, this is too simple. There's no way. And over the last 33 years, researching thousands and thousands of people, not only was I able to find it and prove it, I found a way to switch it off instantly, and it works 100% of the time.
Now, you discovered a hidden biological trait that you said unknowingly creates resistance to positive change. Can you explain what it is and how it operates in our lives?
Sure. So during the process, I was able to discover that there's actually just three traits that make up who we are. And I call them the director, the supplier, and the communicator. Now, that's all we do as humans. We direct, we supply, and we communicate. That's it. And when I first found this, I realized that that's how we're made up of, even on a physical level. Using my medical background, I was able to discover that many things are just made up of these three entities. And I found a protective trait. And what we did was, when we place all three traits in this protective sequence, we found that there's only six sequences of human behavior. So there's only six people in the world. So once I know your sequence, I can tell you why you did what you did in the past, why you're doing it now, and why you'll continue to do it. If you had a significant other, I can ask you a couple of questions about them, tell you everything about them and never meet them, and then tell you how you two interact and never ask a question. Because we've gotten down to the science of how these three traits, depending on how you're born, will create how you react to different adversities, and no matter how big or small.
Now, uh, I'm trying to think here because there was a book uh, that they used when I was incarcerated, and it was um, the parent, the child. What is that? It also kind of broke things down into three categories, and I'm trying to think of who the philosopher, I mean, who the psychologist was, but it was the child, the parent, and there was a third one, but
Mhm.
the child, had all the traits of a child, and these are the things that you wanted, like uh, emotional candy, so to speak.
Mhm.
The parent was the one that controlled kind of how much of that. emotional candy that you were able to eat at that particular time. So it is when we're is the simplicity, is that what makes us, you know, hesitant because it's too simple? We want a more complex solution.
No, it's just down to protection. It comes down to that we are uncomfortable. So when I first started this and working with a lot of my patients and stuff like that, what I realized, I used to tell people, well, it's fear because there's only two. We were told that there's two emotions, fear and love, right? They're opposite to each other. So, but I would have people go, I have no fear, but they worry or they were stressed or they were resistance. And I realized that that's just all protection at different degrees. So fear could be a 10, someone's worry could be a 8, and someone's, anxiety could be a 10 as well. Or something else of concern or any other word they use could be at different levels. So that's where I was able to really understand the complexity comes with all different words that we think mean different things, but it all comes down to three basic ways to look at things. So, for instance, I can take the entire dictionary and put them all under the director, the supplier, and communicator. And what happens is that let's say you and I are, you're a client of mine and we're discussing something that you're going through. And I can say, well, the reason why this is happening is because of your inborn sabotage trait, and you do this. And you go, yeah, I don't really think so, but it might be. And then I say, okay, you do this instead. And you go, yes, definitely, absolutely. But what you didn't realize, the first word that I used was synonymous with the second word. It was just this word did not resonate well with this scenario, but the second word resonated well with the scenario. But it all came down to the same word, as in there were synonymous words. So what happens is I've gotten down to the simplicity that this is so simple that we've gone down to there's only one thing to focus on for the rest of your life, and that's your saboteur. Because as soon as something becomes uncomfortable, we go into protection. And as soon as we feel no more, we don't have to protect ourselves, we immediately go into growth. It's just a switch. For instance, so those of you who may be listening and not seeing me, I'm raising up my hand and I'm facing James with my front of my hand. Now, James, can you see the back of my hand?
No.
Okay. Now, if I switch it, can you see the back of my hand now?
Yes.
Yeah. But you can't see the front of my hand, correct?
Correct.
Right. So one side, let's say, is fear. Well, if I see fear and the opposite of fear is love, I cannot love. If love is also trust, when I fear, I can't trust. But as soon as I just switch to trust, I can't fear. You don't see it anymore. They're both there. They're both on the same coin, but depending on what side you see is your perception of something that's totally different. And that's why they're both there at the same time. Everything is within you. You are the fearful person, you're the loving person, you're the trusting person, you're the non-trusting person, you're the beautiful person, you're the ugly person. Everything is within you. It is up to you whether you want to tap into to show yourself in the world. So you must, for to know short, you need to know tall, and for you to know fat, you must know thin, right? So in order for you to know love, you must know fear, and vice versa. But they're there at the same moment. It is up to you which one you want to tap into.
So, what is that biological trait that we all have?
So it all depends. So one of the saboteur, what it does, and this may resonate with some of the people that are listening, is that you may be scattered. You most of the time are all over the place. You wing things. You really don't think things through. You just react to certain things instantly. You don't follow through on tasks. The other one could be is that you are overly giving. You give too much to others, and they don't really reciprocate for what you give, and you can become kind of resentful for that and feel bad towards that, but you have a hard time saying no to these people. The other one is that you're not a great expresser. You don't really express your thoughts and feelings, so people don't really know what you're thinking. And you don't like to confront because you don't want to feel embarrassed to say something stupid or embarrassing. So out of those three, we all have all of them, but depending on how you're born and what you use most of, your saboteurs, that one is the most strongest one that you use, whether from your being a child or an adult or in between from there. So, for instance, you ever see the domino masters, right? They push this one domino and goes,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right? All
Yeah.
these things
Yeah.
fall, right? And let's
Right.
say balloons are released. Well, what's the last thing you see? The balloons. That's your imposter syndrome, your procrastination, your anxiety, your depression, you over talking, your overthinking, whatever. It's everything you see and feel last. So what do? We take our coping methods and put them where? We put them on the balloons, not the one domino that started it all. So what's easier, hold down all the balloons and stop pushing the damn domino. That one domino is the inborn sabotaging trait that creates every negative emotion that you experience. So when you push that domino forward, it will then cause you to become frustrated and cause desperation. But if you just switch it and push it the opposite direction, what we call the antidote. So the saboteur has an antidote. It has a way to switch this off instantly. And when you push it that way, you now go down the road of motivation, inspiration, and growth. So, therefore, when you use the antidote, it is impossible to self sabotage yourself. When you use the antidote, you are no longer in protection, you are in growth. Does that resonate?
Yes, it does. What resonates the most, though, uh, you know, is how methods have changed. Because I was incarcerated in the 70s and the 80s. And as you know, there was a whole different method of teaching about self sabotage back in those days. And if you were, you were happened to be incarcerated or in some type of foster situation, there were certain things that were indoctrinated into you about self sabotage that I guess the word now would be archaic.
Yeah. Even today, we feel that self sabotage is a mindset. It isn't. Basically, what I was able to discover that each of the traits that we are born with govern parts of our body. So one trait governs our mind and our thoughts. That's why only a third of us really need mindset. That's why 2/3 of people mindset doesn't really work. The other one deals with the gut, deals with our feelings, and the other one deals with our heart and our emotions and our actions. So all three are within us, but based on how or what sequence you have, you will react in such a way to protection differently than somebody that you know. So if you had a significant other, you will react differently than they do to the same situation. And then let's say you guys are having an argument. Basically, you're not hating each other, you're just protecting yourself from each other. Even though you love each other, you're just protecting yourself at that moment in time. We've saved a lot of marriages and partnerships and businesses and things like that based on people's perception of why they think someone was trying to hurt them. And once they understood the person's sequence, instead of a judgment, compassion would come into play, going, now I understand what you do. Now I can use what I know about you and for us to work together and eliminate conflict. So we've worked with a lot of veterans with PTSD. And we saw tremendous shifts because instead of looking at those four letters PTSD as a crutch, they're now using it as I'm just going into protection. That's all I'm doing. There's nothing wrong with me. See, when you release your personal professional power and you hit that wall, your saboteur kicks in to protect you. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not a loser or what all the hundreds of words we say to ourselves. You're just in protection. So imagine when you hit that wall of being uncomfortable, as you start to contract, imagine there's only one biological trait that is causing you to contract. Once knowing it, you can now use the antidote and just switch by using this phrase to immediately go into growth. So now you're doing this contraction, expansion, but getting growing and growing compared to being in the hamster wheel of going to doing the same thing over and over again. So one instance, we had uh, a, um, a veteran of 5 tours. And when he first took the course, I told him, look, take this antidote to your therapist. And when they were using the antidote within the first 3 weeks, he had tremendous breakthroughs and actually found out why he went to war. And it was because he was at 5 years old. So he was able to use this in a much more accurate way and get to the root of the cause compared to really knowing that this was something he had to live with and it was controlling him compared to he can control it.
I can definitely, yeah, I understand. But then I have been through, something, as they call it, self-sabotage myself. So I do.
Remember, at that moment, you're just protecting yourself. So you can write this phrase down, and people that are listening, at that moment, when you feel resistance or stressed, or you feel you're stuck, or whatever, anything that you're out of flow with, ask yourself, why am I protecting myself at this moment in time? Why am I protecting myself at this moment in time? At that moment, that person could represent the thousands of other people that did you wrong. So it's not really them, it's all the representations of everybody did to you. But what's interesting too is they represent the part of you that you have the problem with. See, everything outside of you is you. When that person shows up, you can't stand, it's a part of you can't stand. You're just pissed off at them because they showed up and reminding you, right? So what we found is that by using your antidote, the antidote actually brings adversity in order for you to grow. So when you get stuck or you feel yourself sabotaging or anything out of the flow, get excited because you're ready to evolve.
Can you tell us a little bit about your T now method?
Sure. So the T stands for transcend. So T now, transcend now. When you use the transcend now method, it allows you to transcend any adversity, no matter how big and small, immediately. You start to understand why that situation came in. I am in a strong belief, and I see this all the time. We prove this over and over again. When an adversity comes in, it's actually the answer that you're looking for. So many times we pray and we want this, or we meditate, and all of a sudden something quote bad happens to us. What's the first thing you say? See, I shouldn't pray, right? What am I being punished by God, or whatever the case may be? But the universe or God doesn't speak English; they speak experience. They are sending you your answer in that form of experience. That quote bad thing may start help you to avoid the thing that you want, because at that moment you may not need it, or you wouldn't be able to handle it well, that you need other experiences before you have that. If something quote good happens, that's fine, move with it. But again, something good where we can use it not so great, right? Have you ever had something really good and didn't use it too well? Maybe you had made some money and then you overly spent it, now you're broke again, right? So all the experiences. So when I tell my clients, when you have those experiences, good or bad, or just is, you just say, I wonder what benefit this is giving me. When I went through a lot, and I went through a lot of different traumas and a lot of horrific things over the last 30 years in order for me to really get to discover this. Because there's nothing like this in the world. So I had to go through a lot in order to really understand this. This didn't take me a year to figure out. It took me 30 years to figure this out. And what I found was that when I would look at things in a different way. I used to say, I wonder what gift I'm getting. I wonder what gift I'm getting. Man, this is going to be some gift when I get this, right? After this particular situation. But then I realized later, I already got the gift. During the trauma, during the whole thing that I'm going through, I got the gift. It was up to me to determine how can I use that gift to benefit from myself. How was the trauma? How was that really bad situation that happened? What was there to help benefit me so I can move forward and impact the world as well as myself?
So, you say that the T is for transition,
Transcend, transcend,
transcend.
transcend something, to go above it, to move with it, not lose yourself in it, but transcend above it so that you could evolve as a human being.
So, how does self sabotage affect high achievers?
It affects
Entrepreneurs
everybody.
and leaders.
Well, even if you are a millionaire, a billionaire, right? A high achiever, you still want to continue to grow, correct? So, in order for you to grow, you need to put yourself into an uncomfortable position. When you go into that uncomfortable position, you are immediately go into protection. Does that make sense, right?
Yes.
So, whether or not you're homeless, or you can take a homeless person, then all of a sudden they became, got a job, and then they became successful. And now they're a millionaire, and then they still want to go to be a multimillionaire. All the things that led them to continue to be successful was the antidote. We've proven this over and over again, that once they understood this is the antidote that makes you grow, that makes you continue to move forward, no matter who you are, whether you are homeless to a billionaire, you always go through adversity. That's why we're here. See, people think that we should be here, that everything should go well for us. They don't know why we're here. We're here for the contrast. We're here so that we can evolve and experience. There's nothing to learn. We're perfect beings within us. We're just here to experience. And when you can really understand that everything that comes my way, maybe something's delayed, maybe I need to learn more patience, maybe that delay is allowing other things to come into play so that things come even better. Have you ever wanted something so bad and then you didn't get it, but later on realized that was the worst thing that could have happened to you?
Of
Or maybe
course.
you wanted something so bad and you forced it and you got it and it was the worst thing that you should you should never have forced it. Or you wanted something and you just kind of let the things happen, and when you were patient, other new opportunities came in that you would have missed if you forced it. So that's why over these years of all the things I've gone through and all the thousands and thousands of people I've taught and talked with, is that it's just allowing it to happen. And that's the true power of the antidote and the T now method, to understand what is my adversity? Why am I going through this? How can I evolve through this? And by using this, just knowing that it's coming, but I need to do some steps in such a way so that I align with what I want.
And excuse me. You have a book, "Life's One Law," and
Yes.
you mentioned nature's blueprint for success.
Yes.
But what key lesson should everyone take from it?
So in the book, I wrote the book, among other ones I've written, but I wrote this book about 5 years ago to kind of get what I discovered out in the world, and how it all began. So I was able to discover a 6-step blueprint that nature uses to come back from her storms. And I realized those 6 steps are the same steps within us in order for us to solve any business or personal problem. And during the process, what I was able to do was to realize, and how I was able to find these three: the director, the supplier, and the communicator. When I took those steps and I plugged them together, and I took the opposite and combined them, it came up with three basic principles of the universe. And I had called them the director, the supplier, and the communicator, because atoms to the galaxies, they all were governed by just those three things. Because that's all atoms and galaxies do. They direct, they supply, and they communicate. That's it. And because we're made up of the same stuff, we have the same laws. And I realized I had to teach myself quantum physics and all that, but I mainly used all of this for human behavior. This goes into physics and deals with other different things that physics wants to know about and that I can answer. But I've mainly been focusing for the last 30 years on human behavior, because when I started working with my clients who were autoimmune patients, who were the sick of the sickest, we were getting really great results because they were understanding why they became sick, as well as why they would continue to stay sick. For instance, I used to have people come to me and go, "You're going to kill me, doc." And I'm like, "Okay, what'd you do?" So I had a pizza. And I said, "Okay, how do you feel? How long have you been in pain?" "I've been in pain for 4 days." I said, "Great. I'm glad you had that pain." It kind of reinforces it. But I'm more wondering, what was the trigger before you ate the pizza that was more painful to deal with, that you had to eat the pizza to numb yourself from it? And what we found was when the trigger happened, they would use their saboteur, and the saboteur would lead them to their numbing agents, eating bad foods, sugar, smoking, doing bad things, or whatever the case may be, right? And then what we found was when they had the trigger and we used the antidote, the exact opposite, two things happened. They lessened their numbing agents or they stopped them, which will allow them to heal more. Because how many times do you know people, or even yourself, right? Maybe you go to somebody, a nutritionist and all that, you start to feel better, and all of a sudden you go back to eating the crap again and you start feeling bad again because you were more comfortable being in that unhealthy mode, because eating healthy was more painful than eating unhealthy. And the pain of the body pain was less painful than actually eating good food.
I can relate to that. Uh, uh, the nutritionist and the whole bit. But I'm going to take this a little personal here,
Sure.
and you can kind of okay. I have trust issues. Uh, have had them ever since I came back. But I also realize that those trust issues have a deeper meaning, and because I apply them not only to my family life, but I even apply them to uh, my outside circle. Now, I find that my biggest problem is if someone wants to be friends, rather than it's because of the fact that I have such a bubbling personality and so forth and so on, it's what do you want? How do you relate that to the tea now?
So that person that wants to be friends, and when you go into that trust issue, your saboteur, which whenever it is, kicks in and they're trying to protect you because that person represents all the people that screwed you. That's why you have trust issues. Remember I told you those people are you? The reason why you have trust issues is not because you don't trust them. You don't trust yourself to make the right decision. So you're looking at the wrong side. You're looking outside of you compared to looking within you. Why do I not trust myself? The reason why I got took is maybe because maybe I didn't read the contract. Maybe I overly trusted people in the beginning because I didn't want to do my due diligence and see what's going on, or whatever the case may be. So it's really that you don't trust yourself. And that's why you're pissed off at them, because you're not trusting yourself. You're pissed off at yourself. So by focusing on you, see, you should never trust anybody. You need to trust yourself and then trust them. You need to start with yourself first. So I would do is try to figure out, why are you not trusting yourself? And it comes down to this one thing, this saboteur. And this one saboteur has caused people to come into your life to show you how to start trusting you. See, if you want to know how trusting you are, what do you need? You need people who you can't trust to show how much trusting you are. You need to, if I, for instance, if I want to know how patient I am, I need impatient and intolerant people to show how patient I am with them. And once you can see how patient and tolerant you are, then you've dealt with that and you go on to the next experience. But right now, you're consistently bringing people in that you may not trust to reinforce that protection because you're protecting yourself from that situation. Does that resonate?
Most definitely. As a matter of fact, it's like I said, it took a while, but it was something that I had to work through. And as you said, it was a lot of it was self sabotage, which is why I can relate to everything that you're saying here.
Right.
And I think it's very important to get this information out uh, because you know it, I'm trying to get people out of this "woe is me" type of attitude.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's that woe is me. Is why is it that I'm not successful and that person is? Why is that person this way? That person never really taking number one responsibility for your actions. Well, I was born this way and this way, and then I can show people that were in the same situation. What's the difference? One, they could have. You need a mentor. When you're in that rut, you need to find a mentor. If you want to be something, you need to find somebody who's done it and just do what they did. But what happens is we create, there's this saying is you want to know why you have the income you have, look at your best top friends, right? If your friends are miserable and they are in low income, you're going to stay low income because of that. How do you do that? Then you start finding people who are successful and hang out with them and see how their mindset is and changing their vibration. They help change your vibration. And then all of a sudden, oh, a miracle happens. Things start to come my way. And we see this all the time with our clients. As they change themselves, new clients come in, or new money, or other things start to come in, a new love, because they pushed that love away because that love represented something painful. For instance, I found that there are actually three basic traits. Excuse me, my apologies. There are three basic fundamental reasons why we self sabotage. The first one is that you had success and you lost it. So if you ever had success again, you never get to that point because the pain of losing it is more painful than getting there. So if you ever had a business and all of a sudden you had success and you had money and all of a sudden you lost it, to ever go to that point again and losing again because you don't trust yourself to be successful, so you never get there. Maybe someone broke your heart. So what happens is, or maybe somebody died, so that you ever found another love. Losing it is so painful, so you push those people away or you settle for less because you don't want to get hurt. So you stay in self-sabotage, you stay in self-protection. The second one is doing what's necessary. I have to go and listen to James on his podcast and listen to this other guy or all his guests. I have to read a book. I have to take a course. I have to go back to school. You know what? There's a great uh, new show on Netflix. I'll binge watch that, get that out of the way, and then I'll do the other things, which is not going to happen. So you don't do what's necessary to get to be successful. The third thing, especially if you have friends, oh, why are you doing that? Are you reading that book? Oh, that's a silly book. That's stupid. Because they're basically saying, stay where I am at. Because if you go higher, that means two things. I'd have to go higher, and I don't want to do that. I've seen people lose a lot of friends because they started to grow and the other people didn't want to. And I said, you grow and then show them how to grow with you. The third thing is more success equals more pain. I don't know if you ever saw this, but I talk with a lot of business owners. If you ever had a successful month and the next month sucked, Why? Because that successful month was so much was going on, you could barely handle the flow of new clients or whatever the case may be. So you stopped doing what was necessary. And then now you have a sucky one because the pain, if you had more success, now you can't see your family, or now you can't give 100% to the clients you want to, or you can't give 100% to that love or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you're a business person, and if I bring a man or another woman in, then they're going to mess me up, and I'm not going to be able to run my business and all that. All these excuses. So more pain equals more success equals more pain. So those are the three fundamental. You've had success and you lost it, sidestepping what is necessary to get to that success, and the third is more success equals more pain. Does that help?
It's like I said, it's another one of those things that sound very simple, but when you try to put them, it may be hard for some people to put them into place. Like I
Well, look,
said,
I said it is very simple. I didn't say it was easy,
there you
right?
go. There,
But it's
there
like
you
anything else. If I can get to the root of that one domino, and I'm so used to pushing it this way, if I can start pushing it this way, but knowing I'm going to push it that way, it's going to take time. Even I put myself in self sabotage. But the thing is this: how long are you there for? See, when I go into self sabotage, I'm getting uncomfortable, right? And I say to myself, okay, do I give myself 5 minutes? Do I give myself a day, or whatever the case may be? But what happens is when people go into that self sabotage, they could be there for days, months, weeks, or years, right? I tell people, look, I don't care if you go in the corner, take your pillow, go into a fetal position and suck your thumb. I'm good with it. And they're like, that's weird. Why? And I said, because that's just protection. The problem is how long are you there for? So if you're procrastinating, that's okay. But how long are you procrastinating for? If you are feeling certain things, or you're doing other things that are not working well for you, okay, you're doing it, showing to reinforce this isn't working. But a lot of times people don't know how to shift that. They don't know how to flip it. And that's what we teach them, is through the antidote. It's a one sentence thing for each person. And by using it, they help themselves slowly start dancing with it instead of fighting with it.
Now, can organizations and governments use your T-Now method
Yeah,
to
I
sign
just did one of
better
yeah, I just did one
programs?
of my workshops for the Army. I'm a government contractor because I want to help the PDS. I wanted to help the veterans very dearly. I want to help them tremendously, and we've helped them. We've helped people with combat injuries, to even a CEO at 12 tours, and he was he was able to go out dancing with his wife after 3 weeks, because in his mind, going out dancing was like going to the war zone. And by using the antidote, he was able to perceive things differently, look at things differently, that he was able to make it safe for him to go in and enjoy himself with his wife. It was really a great thing. You should see in his face. It's just something that small. But yeah, I do go out to corporations or different companies and do a 4 to 8 hour workshop. I do have also a membership, a membership. It's a monthly uh, investment that people can get their inborn sabotage and trade an antidote and start to learn a little bit. And then for people who are like business owners, executives, sales professionals, I do have a group coaching program where they have access to me, and I teach them on group calls as well as one-on-one. So we have 3 ways to help people to teach the T Now method.
Well, I'll definitely let you get your advertisement in before we leave.
Sure.
So, in case we have some people in the audience, we are on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So there is a variety of people that you know um, can
Yeah,
possibly
I'm
be
on
helping.
all the platforms. They can DM me or ask questions, and we can give them specific links to the program that will best fit them.
Yeah, great, great. So, how do you respond to critics who say that personal responsibility responsibility alone isn't enough to overcome social issues.
Say that one more time.
I said, how do you respond to critics who say that personal responsibility alone isn't enough to overcome societal issues?
You have to start with you. You cannot you cannot help anybody until you can help yourself first. So we've seen this tremendously with a lot of our clients, is that they'll deal with themselves first, and then they can deal with their children. They can start to help them understand. Imagine knowing the sequences of your children and why they do what they do, because we've had parent-child relationships change tremendously. We've saved people from divorces. So understanding how you deal with it, and then from there teaching to others. It's a slow process, right? But people need to understand that no matter what a person does, they're just protecting themselves from each other. It doesn't mean they have to stay, they have to keep themselves responsible for themselves. They have to take responsibility. If you did something, you got to take on the consequence, right? So even though it wasn't your fault, it still was your action and that experience. Like when you were incarcerated, right? It gave you an opportunity to do two things: stay there, continue to keep there because you're more comfortable in there than in the outside world, or go out on the outside world and take that experience and use it to evolve as a human being. I tell people all the time is that you are your own juror, your own prosecutor, and your own judge. So here's the question: when is your sentence over? It's a very powerful question to ask yourself. You have the key to unlock the shackles that you placed yourself in. But when is the sentence over? See, as you know, why do prisoners go back to prison? Because they're more uncomfortable outside. Now they got to take responsibility. They have to now find the 3 meals a day. They got to find a job. They got to find purpose, things like that, which is harder. So they go back to jail because it's easier. Would you agree?
We used to call that institutionalism.
Exactly. Because they don't teach you how to stay out there because they want you in there because they make money on that, right? So it's another story. But what I'm saying is that by understanding within yourself, you have to unshackle the change within you and show others how to evolve. But you can't help others if you don't help yourself. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does. And like you said, a lot of people, at least the way it used to be. I haven't been in that sense, like the '80s, but I think that there are certain things that still remain, and that is when you are incarcerated, technology passes you by very quickly. Um, I can remember taking key punch classes. I'm really dating myself now.
Hey, I'm with you. I was there.
you know, where where you had to write a program, and it took a suitcase to for you to program
Hmm.
whatever you wanted in that computer.
Right.
Nowadays, I can pick this up
Hmm.
and do and do anything that I want to do. Imagine a person that has been locked up since the '90s, even like 2010. Look at everything that you have to face when you get out of it. When you get out, you have new
Absolutely.
technology. You practically have you have to find, like you said, you have to find those three hots in a cot. You know, and you have to suddenly get along with people that you don't know. In my case, people that I didn't trust.
Hmm.
But how do you get through? And we are talking about self sabotage here. Like I said, you come out now, somebody gives you an iPhone. You you can, maybe you decided that you wanted to take an Uber, but it has no driver.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Right.
this is how fast things have moved in the last decade.
Hmm.
So how do you avoid that? Like I said, that woe is me. This is too much for me to learn. Uh, you know, uh, I'm not comfortable. I think that's the word. I'm not
Yeah,
comfortable.
you need somebody. When you're in that mode, you can't do it yourself. You need others to help encourage, keep you accountable, and things like that. Um, it's very hard doing it alone, right? And but depending on what your purpose is in life and what opportunities are coming your way, are you going to take them or not? If you're consistently in the woe is me, it hasn't been it hasn't been painful enough to leave. So when I would have, for instance, when I had patients who had to be off sugars and alcohol and everything else. I remember one girl, she was in her 20s, and I said, I'm going to tell you something, because if you don't get rid of this alcohol and the sugar and all that, you're going to be debilitated and things like that. She was pretty bad. And because of drinking the alcohol and the sugar, and her finally was able to see it was more painful to do that than what she was. It was more painful to be in that pain of the physical pain than that. And I said, you're going to see something. When you stop drinking, you're going to find out who your true friends are. You're going to find people who are just your friends because you were partying with them. And now you no longer party with them, you don't drink. They're going to start leaving. And I want you to be prepared for that. And so be it. Only 1 to 2 really good friends stuck around. They said, "No problem. We won't drink. We'll just still be with you, and we can go out drinking, with other people. But we want to be your friend." And she is no longer in debilitating pain. She's very successful. She's a mortgage person and things like that. And she's gone through some tough times, but she was able to use her antidote to move forward with it. But just knowing that by making a decision, it could be good for you, but there's also going to be some detriment, right? I told you that benefit and detriment are happening at the same time. For instance, when things are falling apart, right? My life is falling apart. But if they're falling apart, it's also falling together, right? So in the northern hemisphere of the world during winter, it's really cold, right? Well, what's happening in the southern hemisphere? It's hot. So both cold and hot are happening at the same time. We are the same thing as the world, right? If there is a benefit, if there's a detriment happening, there's a benefit for us. The problem and the solution happen at the same time. They are created at the same time. It is up to you which one you want to focus on. You want to focus on your problems and your woe and all that. That's fine until it gets to the point of being so painful, you then start looking for the benefit, right? So as the problem continues, just know that there's a solution. I wonder what gift I've gotten, and how can I use this? What is this trying to tell me? Why is this happening to me? What is the benefit compared to, see, it happens all the time and you do nothing about it? I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, have you actually found that your method works in high stress industries such as healthcare, law enforcement,
Hmm.
politics?
Oh, absolutely. I've had politicians take my course. We've had um, law enforcement. We've had doctors, all different type of doctors, and all that. Realize it doesn't matter where you're at. I've had people come into the program very highly stressed out. And I said, if you don't understand why you are doing this, you're going to continue this. So even though they were having so much going on, they took the course, and then they started to realize why they were creating that chaos. And during the course, within a few weeks, the chaos started to go away because they started to change. They started using their antidote and realized they were making different decisions. They were allowing certain things to let go. They were understanding why they were bringing all this high stress in, because that's what they needed at that moment. But even though they remain in a high stress um, career, they now knew how to handle it differently so that the stress wouldn't get to them, or if it did get to them, they knew why and how to switch it off if they chose to.
Now, is there a certain timeline? Doctor tells you, you take this pill for 30 days, or you have to, is there a timeline? Is there a certain workshop you go through? Uh, and how long, before a person, the average person, should see success?
It all depends on how much of the degree they put themselves in a hole. You see what I'm saying? So I've
Deep in the
seen
hole,
people,
right?
yeah, I've seen people take the antidote and within an hour start seeing shifts. I've seen other people that had to take months because of what has happened, where they created major wounds in their business or in their personal lives, and it took some time to heal. So it's like if I get a paper cut, am I going to band-aid it and I'm going to, have to keep away from it, or I just go on with my day and a couple of days later it's fine, right? But if I have surgery or I have a major wound and it's going to take longer to heal. So even though that I'm taking care of my wound, it's still going to take time for it to recover fully. So depending on what parts of your personal and your business or your career and your professional life that has caused so much it being wounded, the antidote will help, but it may take some time to turn some things around. It may turn things around very quickly, or whatever the case. You saw the PTSD I told you about. The guy within 3 weeks saw a major shift. I had another veteran, PTSD, wounded in combat, that within the first week, by using his antidote, he was able to neutralize two major instances that would have set him off. So it depends on how people are using it, how they look at it, and how long that is there for. So we've seen some tremendous shifts, and we see some people that have taken longer. It all depends how much are they using it, how much are they willing to use it, and how to move forward with
You might have saved me 35 years of anger management,
it.
Dr.
I used to have the
Diamond.
same thing. I had to go to anger management way back when.
Yeah. I mean,
And now I know why I had to. I now
yeah, yeah,
understood my saboteur, why I was so angry. I was pissed off at myself because I created these things. I caused all these things, but I
right.
was blaming other people. Like one of the things were, so other people, but I realized those people had to be in my life in order for me to discover what I had to discover.
Yeah, I think that was one of my biggest mistakes over the course of my life, learning to accept that, the responsibility was mine and not others, even
Yeah, it
though.
sucks when you come to that conclusion, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, and I mean, of course, in my case, the three strike law also helped. So
But
you know,
think about this, if I may interrupt you.
go ahead.
You wouldn't be where you are talking to me. You wouldn't be reaching the people that you're reaching if you didn't have all that experience. So there's the benefit. See, people ask me, what could be one of the things that I can do to let go? If you can find a benefit out of your past, then there's no need to forgive that person. There's no need for the person to forgive you. You found a benefit. So there's no need to forgive. There's no need for you to feel bad. You should feel excited because you benefited from it. And how can I take that benefit and continue my growth? You've taken all those situations, and through your experience, you're helping so many people, right? If you have an addiction, are you going to go to the psychologist that is just book smart, or you want to go to the psychologist that's not only book smart, but they were an addict?
Precisely,
So
precisely.
that's why you have so much impact, because you were there, man. And that's why people listen to you, because you experienced it. So there was no mistake, man. There was no mistake. There's no such things as mistakes. There were just decisions you made that thought you were going to have a different consequence. But in my opinion, the grand scheme for your life is to be here helping these people. But you had to go through some investment of pain to help others with theirs.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you. And once I retired, it was it became kind of my mission, so to speak,
Hmm.
to try to reach others and let them learn from my mistakes. But now, what do you find are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to change their self-sabotage patterns?
Well, one of the things I find is that they're trying to use their superpower to change. They're trying to use their strengths. For instance, remember that protective sequence that I told you about that I discovered, where we then
Right.
take those three traits and depending on how you're born, there's six sequences of human behavior. Well, that sequence is made up of the superpower. So those of you who can't see me, I'm using my hands. I'm Greek and Italian, so I use my hands a lot. So think about a seesaw. Think about the kid that's up in the air. Okay, that's your superpower. And then the fulcrum that is between the two kids that makes it go up and down is what we call the mediator trait, which is the bridge between the superpower and your saboteur. And the saboteur is the kid that's sitting on the ground. Okay. And what they do is they work in conjunction like a seesaw. So if you're a person who overly talks, right? Who has no problem talking, can talk to somebody without a problem. But that's okay. That's good. But when you overly talk and vomit on people, like a salesperson, you ever see a salesperson talk themselves out of a sale? Okay. Why? Now, I work with a lot of VP of sales, and I ask them, if you had a person like this, what kind of training would they need? And they would say, communication. I said, no, man, that's their baby. That's their superpower. The reason why they're overly communicating is because of their saboteur. They could be not valuing themselves, so they have to open and talk so much to show value, which really shows how they devalue themselves. Those people who are scattered and all over the place. They're not following something. They're trying here. They're going to tangents. So they're just overly talking, trying to give these people the knowledge they want. But what we do is as soon as they use their antidote, we've seen people go from 30 to 90% closing rates. We've seen people now, their communication becomes more beautiful and more effective because now they're using the antidote. And so what happens is now the seesaw becomes more balanced.
Okay, so finding that balance sometimes is frightening because you have to take a lot. You have to take in a lot of self-evaluation, and then you have to face that person that you see in the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. But by understanding the reason why it's there to protect you, not to hurt you, then you're more accepting to it. Does that help?
Yeah. But I think the assumption is that well, you can kind of tell us because you work with a wide range of clients, from individuals to corporations. So, uh, what one case really stands out for you?
For a corporation, for a company?
Either for a corporation or an individual. Well, actually, you could give us an illustration of both.
Oh, okay. So I had a $60 million company ready to implode in 2 months, and they were partners, and they had become very successful, and things started to change, and things were starting to go down, and there was a lot of bickering, a lot of problems. And once they understood their sequences and they understood why they were so angry at each other, things started to balance out pretty quickly. And then, based on their sequence, I was able to place them in the proper C suite. This person became the CEO, this one became the COO, this one became this and this. And they started to become more effective. And within 2 months, we saved them $4.5 million. And then they started to come up again and see, and now they're making more profit because based on understanding of not only how they were interacting, but how they were acting with their business. See, the business, those of you who are business owners and executives, your own business has its own inborn sabotage and trait and antidote because it's an entity. So we teach people how business owners or executives and their employees actually subconsciously sabotage the business. And by using their antidote to the business's antidote, we've seen companies turn around pretty quickly. One other thing that helps with the personal and how your saboteur affects your personal and your professional life, because they're really one, they're not separate. We had a guy take one of our workshops. He was a manager, and he came up to me and he said, he says, my son's always upstairs playing video games. I can't get him downstairs to interact with the family. What do I do? So I asked him a few questions. I ascertained his son's sequence. And within less than a week, his son was downstairs interacting with the family because he realized he was the one pushing his son back in the room. He used to make fun of his son because that's how he grew up. That's what motivated him. But because now he understood his son's sequence, that was the worst thing he could have done. As he did what I asked him to do, his son felt more safe, more trusting, and came down and started interacting with family, and their relationship skyrocketed. And because the personal and the professional are one, and the saboteur and the antidote affect at the same time, we found he was doing the same thing in his business. And by shifting that, the business grew as well.
Okay. So, what are the first 3 steps that someone should take if they want to break free from self sabotage?
Well, the first one is to understand what that saboteur is. What is the reason why they do what they do? The second would to be understanding their antidote and how to use their antidote to instantly shift that into the direction in which they know how to. And then thirdly, how to be okay that they do self-sabotage. It's just they're protecting themselves. So one of the things that people like, I can see the relief on, especially clients who start to begin, and I just tell them, say, look, you're not, they're like, um, I'm finding myself how much I'm doing this to myself. And I said, be excited. Now you're becoming aware how much this is affecting you. And if you do go and fall back into it, which I expect you to, just know that you're just protecting yourself at that moment, and then do your best to shift that antidote and move it forward, or have somebody as an accountability partner to help you through that until you feel this is more comfortable. Our goal is for people to subconsciously use their antidote more than their saboteur they've been doing all their lives.
That definitely makes sense. And as a person that, you know, had to really face my self sabotage, and as I said, that was, when they made uh, the third strike law.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes uh, a circumstance that is beyond control to bring you back to control, if you understand what I'm saying
Yep,
there.
absolutely.
you know, so yeah, it's really interesting talking to you about this. I want to get more into it and perhaps have you back on the program at a little later date. But I've come to the time now where I had told you earlier. Where can people learn more about your work, your book, and your teaching?
Sure, they can go to my website to find the book as well as um, a 12-minute video that kind of explains a little bit more about that. They can go to thenowmethod.com, thenowmethod.com, if they're looking to start out slowly and check it out with the membership site. Or they can go to tnowmasterclass.com, tnowmasterclass.com. These are for our business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs and sales professionals that are looking for more of a higher level course to help them get through some things and help themselves stop self-sabotage in their business and their personal life.
And uh, you said you're located where?
I'm in Jersey, but we have clients all around the world.
Okay. Where are you located in Jersey? Like I said, I'm an old Jersey boy. I graduated high school in Newark, but
Hmm.
I ended up staying down in Asbury Park,
Yep,
down around the old
I'm on
cemetery.
the
And
Jersey Shore.
yeah, oh, yeah. Uh, I came to the other shore out here in San Diego.
I know. Went the other way. Try the west part.
you know, but uh, I wanted to get just one more your take on self sabotage because I think as you get older, you can kind of see and grasp that idea. But how do you get your message across to the younger, the up and coming generation, the generation that seems to think that they know it all already?
Well, I've been there. I have two
Of
girls.
course, of course. I mean, when you're in your 20s and early 30s, of course, you know it all, and
Hmm.
who could tell me what to do? Of course.
Right.
So,
That's the beauty of it. Once you know that, and we've had teenagers. I've had teenagers. I have four stepchildren. I have seven grandchildren. Um, and we can see each one of their sequence and we'll know why they do what they do, and we can then help on a subconscious level help them to understand why they're frustrated and all. Because one of the things I tell people, especially they're in the teenagers or whatever, they've only been on this earth for like 15 years if they're 15 years old, and we're in our 40s and we think they should have the experience. We don't even have our stuff together. How are they going to get their stuff together, right? And they just always looked at how you did things, so it's you got to take that responsibility. But um, one of the things is that as you start to talk to them on with words that tap into their antidote, we've seen them to really look at you like you get me, you understand me. And I've seen that with my own children. And um, my ex had put a major block between my kids, and but because I knew their sequence, I could then talk to them on a subconscious level by using their words that resonated with them. And maybe they listened to me and they didn't listen to me and then they listened to me. But over now, our relationship is solid and no one can ever break our bond because I knew what they were going through. I understood instead of going into, you got to do this, you should do this. I would go, how'd that work out for you? You know, so I'm assuming the reason why you did this is this, this, and this. And they were like, yeah, I did that. Well, are you open to doing something different? Right. And by doing that, they started to trust me more because for some reason, what I said would happen because I knew how they would react to certain things. So, um, yeah, once you know this with yourself, but you know it for other people, you can help take conflict and shift it into more of a loving relationship. We've seen this over and over and over again.
Now, one last thing here, because to me the biggest disconnect is as you spoke earlier about the kid, the father and the son, and the father, the disconnect there. There are no, back in my days, Sunday, the family came to dinner, and uh, there was a strict dinner time. You'd be home at 5 o'clock or whatever it was. The family sit down and had dinner. Now everybody's doing their own thing. Dad gets home at 10 o'clock. Mom gets home at 8. The kids get out of school at 5. How do you bring the family back into uh, uh, I want to say existence, because one of the self sabotages I find is, like you said, when you don't have that mentor or you don't take that time for everyone not necessarily to be on the same page, but just to feel that type of energy that you have, as a family, as a group.
Well, the parents themselves have to sit down and co-parent. They have to sit down and create policy. They have to create rules in the house. Children need rules. They need discipline. They've shown this over and over again. The kids just can't go and make the decisions or whatever the case may be. And you got to sit down and make some hard choices to be uncomfortable in order to slowly bring back that family. It's like any a broken business. You're going to have to make certain cuts. You're going to need to make certain decisions that are going to be painful, but it's for the benefit of the business. It's the benefit of the family unit. And that's also social, where two parents now have to work. Back when we were born, my mom didn't have to work, right? My father was working. Her work was, which
She
is
was a housewife.
she was a housewife, which was was more work than my mom, right? But you know, because of that whole situation. But it's sitting down, coming together as a unit, and even though the kids are screaming and yelling, whatever the case may be, this is what it is, and that's it. So it's going to take some time. It's going to take some counseling as well. Some people that are trained in this. If you truly want to change something and you don't know how to, you got to find somebody, as I said before, whether it's a therapist or a mentor or whomever who's done it. And then you have to be willing to pay the price. And some people are just not willing to pay the price.
Yes, sir. I agree. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time this evening. I did go. I think I'm pretty much right on schedule for us here. But
Right.
uh, as I said, before you go, one more time, I want you to give the people where they could find you. And
Yeah. If they're looking forward to
you
do
have
the
two
membership,
books, right?
they can go to thetnow.method.com. And everything will be in your podcast links, I'm assuming. And or they can go to the tnowmasterclass.com for those who want to go into the more of the business group coaching courses there. And or they can go to transcendnow.biz. That's my main website where they can look at my book and other things as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight,
Thank
Doc.
you,
And
James.
I really would like to have you come back maybe a little later and maybe be on one of my panels.
Ah, would love to. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I thank you so much, sir. You have a great night. I know it's a
You
little
too
late
now.
out there in Jersey, so
My
you have a
pleasure.
great night.
Okay, man. Enjoy. Thank you. Bye
Yes,
bye.
sir. All right. Yes, that was the great Dr. Phil. We have our own Dr. Phil right here on on We the People. So yes, if you have any problems or especially with self-sabotage, which I'm sure if most of us sit down and really take the time and think about it, I know it's a very hard conversation to have with yourself. And, but Dr. Phil would definitely be one for you to get in touch with. We thank you for your time this Monday, and we look forward to having you back here on We the People. Have a great
Thanks so much
evening.
again, James. Have a great
Yes.
one. All right. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Okay. Yes. So we will be on uh, a show Friday featuring Mr. Anthony Scott from Minneapolis. Mr. Scott actually lives in the neighborhood where we will be talking about the George Floyd Square, the preparations, so forth and so on, the different political issues that are coming up. There's a $49 million lawsuit against the city by some of the black businesses down there. Uh, there's talk of having a memorial. There's talk of having, there's a lot of things that Mr. Scott will be certainly talking with us about. So if you're around Friday, the 18th, tune in to We the People, where our principal speaker will be Mr. Anthony Scott from Minneapolis. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and we look forward to talking with you Friday. Another episode of We the People. We thank you once again. Have a great evening. Have a great week.